Honoring King, how students and community members celebrated MLK Day.
President's Prize winner shoots for the stars.
And men's basketball prepares to take on Minnesota in Madison Square Garden. That's all right here on Lantern News Now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Suarez.
And I'm Jamila Muhammad. You're watching Lantern News Now.
While some students may have spent Monday morning sleeping in, over 1,000 students and faculty gathered to honor the life of Martin Luther King Jr. by taking part in a day of service. Our own Jamila Muhammad was there and spoke to the volunteers about the importance of the event.
Ohio State celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day by following in his footsteps and being active participants in the community. Pay It Forward hosts the MLK Day of Service once a year to pay homage to his legacy and volunteer for various businesses in the Columbus area.
MLK Day of Service stands for Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, and we host it on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, January 15th, every year, just to pay homage to his legacy of giving back to the community. And so we have over 1,000 students come out, and we send them off to different organizations to have a big single day of service just to really pay legacy to him and all of the work that he has done for the community. We have different organizations such as COSI and the Columbus Zoo, and we have the Pack Shack here as well that we have loved being partnered with for the past couple of years. And so it's really an amazing way for students to come together and bond over just Martin Luther King Jr. and his legacy, and also just community service in general.
The operations manager of the Pack Shack was able to provide more insight on their role at the service event.
We have a great relationship with Ohio State. We have a warehouse and operations right here up in Lewis Center, just north of Columbus. And so we've done stuff with Ohio State. We did something back in, I want to say it was November. We did like 200,000 meals over at the French Field House. So we've done tons with Ohio State. It's a great relationship we have because students are great to work with, the staff's great to work with. Yeah, so today we're packing our cheesy rice and vegetable meal. It's packed full of protein and minerals. Not only do we want someone to get something to eat, we also want them to get something healthy to eat.
One of the students explained to the Lantern the importance of giving back.
Well, definitely giving back. I feel like Ohio State, this is my community, so I would love to service and give back, and especially the Columbus community as well, and abroad. I feel like I've had so much service given to me, so it's only right to give it back.
Martin Luther King Jr. was an exemplary part of the community and pushes Buckeyes to be the best they can be. Jamila Muhammad, Lantern TV.
April 4th will mark the 50th anniversary of King's death.
Fourth-year student and NASA intern Anna Volker is on a mission. As one of the 2018 President's Prize winners, she hopes to make science accessible for those with disabilities. We spoke with her to learn more about her passion for helping others.
I think I really got interested in science because of space and because of the astronomy being so exciting to me. So I've always been really interested in any field where there are more questions than there are answers. And I think astronomy is a good example of an area of science that has so much waiting to be discovered. And that is so thrilling to me. So that's really how I got started wanting to share that excitement with everyone and starting to see that there wasn't equality in how people can access this new and exciting field. So for the project, I proposed something called Astro Access, which is a year-long project dedicated to making astronomy and science as a whole a more inclusive field for people with disabilities. So this is a three-part project that will start in South Africa. I'll be working in Cape Town at the South African Astronomical Observatory. So that's the first goal of the project, is trying to capitalize on the reach of things already in place around the world in outreach activities. And then the second portion is a science accessibility conference that'll be organized here at Ohio State. And then the last portion, as I touched on briefly, is this Science, Shakespeare, and Autism inspired component. So this will be a 12-week program working with children with autism in the local Columbus community through these science-based theater games.
Ohio State is a home away from home for many students, especially those from outside the U.S. A recent survey by the Institute of International Education and the State Department lists Ohio State 17th in the world in hosting the most international students. We spoke with the Office of International Affairs at Ohio State to learn more about what draws international students to the university and how they support them once they arrive.
I think what's appealing about Ohio State is that there is a big international community here, so students know that when they come here there will be kind of a community welcoming them, as well as all the resources that I think for a lot of the same reasons domestic students want to come here. We have all the perks of being kind of a very traditional campus. You know, when you're on campus, and it's a really great community, but we have all the benefits of also being really close to the city of Columbus and all the resources that are available in the city of Columbus. So I think it's really appealing for students to know that they'll have access to experience a really exciting city, but also internships and all the great professors and research and stuff that happens on campus. We do a big kind of intensive orientation program in August when students are first arriving to kind of get them the essentials for getting started and getting settled on campus, scheduling classes, kind of doing all the mandatory paperwork and appointments that they have to do. But then we kind of take the rest of the year and offer a variety of programs, and our philosophy is that for international students to have a good experience here on campus and to enjoy campus and adjust really well to life in another country, that domestic students need to be involved too.
Now let's check in with the sports desk for the latest in women's basketball.
The Ohio State women's basketball team lost to rival Michigan Tuesday night 84-75. The Buckeyes led the Wolverines by 5 points headed into halftime, but struggled to maintain the lead in the second half after Michigan went on a 13-4 run in the third quarter. The Wolverines would keep the pace going by outscoring the Buckeyes in the fourth quarter with a 22-17 run. Michigan center Hallie Thome, who led Michigan with 27 points, and senior guard Caitlin Flaherty, who had 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, would help secure the win over the number 8 ranked Ohio State. Ohio State senior guard Kelsey Mitchell had 20 points, shooting 5 for 14 from the field. Senior forward Stephanie Mavunga helped the Buckeyes in their early lead by adding 15 points in the first half. In the second half, she was held to only 6 points before fouling out with 1:52 left in the game. The Buckeyes shot just 25.6% from the field in the second half and were 6 for 30 from the three-point range in their first Big Ten loss this season.
I don't think we had the focus that we needed tonight to win. Just way too many mental errors against a good Michigan team. I thought they played well. And when we would make mistakes, they'd make us pay. And so, but you look at, I mean, they shot 53% and out-rebounded us by 13. We shot 36%. You're not going to win a game.
To be honest, we were real lackadaisical, especially to start out the third quarter. And so that's on us. I mean, we shot 36% as they shot 53%. It's really difficult to beat a team when you're shooting such a low percentage and they're at such a great percentage. And so, I mean, that has to do with shot selection. That has to do with forcing up shots that, you know, maybe aren't the best ones, you know, making the extra pass or just trying to do too much sometimes.
The Ohio State men's basketball team has been on a tear as of late, toppling then #1 Big Ten rival Michigan State just over a week ago. Now they're in the middle of a 3-game road stretch tonight against Northwestern after taking down Rutgers on Sunday. I'm here with the Lanterns men's basketball reporter, Edward Sutland. Edward, how important is this stretch against lesser Big Ten opponents for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I think that it's a lot bigger of a stretch than a lot of people think. You know, Ohio State, what really was bad for Ohio State last year was that they lost to teams they shouldn't have lost to. They lost to Florida Atlantic, they lost to Illinois. This season they haven't done that. Every team that they're supposed to beat, they've beaten. You know, they took care of business against Rutgers. They beat all the non-conference opponents at the beginning of the season. Good teams, when they're looking to get into the NCAA tournament, they can afford to lose to the Michigan States and to the North Carolinas. It's the losses to teams that they need to beat that are really going to come back to hurt them at the end of the year. So I think that right now, while they're going to be heavily favored to win most of these games, they're fairly important for Ohio State to win. And I think that tonight against Northwestern, they have a chance to be upset. Mm-hmm. But if they play the way they should be able to take care of business against Northwestern.
Yeah, no, this was a team who maybe last year, this game against Northwestern, you weren't sure what the outcome was going to be. But now coming into this heavily favored game, like you're saying, these are the games that they need to win to make sure that those NCAA tournament hopes are still alive. Speaking of that, now that Ohio State has cracked the top 25, is it too early for them to start thinking about this Ohio State men's basketball team in the NCAA tournament?
So I don't think that it's necessarily too early. At this point, they're right now pretty heavily favored to make the tournament. There's a lot of bracket websites out there that are saying that Ohio State is going to be a number 6 seed. There's some that say a number 8 seed. There's some that even say as high as a number 4 seed. You know, Ohio State is number 22 in the AP Top 25. They are one of the best teams in the country right now. Now, with that said, one of the problems for last year's team was that they just combusted down the stretch. Last year's team also beat Michigan State. Now, Michigan State wasn't the number 1 team in the nation last year, and it was right when Ohio State beat them. But this year's team needs to just finish strong.
Yeah,
you know, if it takes care of the teams that it should, it'll be in the NCAA tournament. Even if it gets knocked out in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, which at this point I'd be a little bit surprised if it did. This is a better team than it was last year. I think that if it takes care of business, it'll be in the tournament.
Okay, now, redshirt junior forward Keita Bates-Diop has been leading the surge for the Buckeyes, and head coach Chris Holtmann said that his current pace would be hard for them to keep.
It's probably unrealistic to expect this type of offensive efficiency to continue for him, even as great of a player as he is. You know, I think that just like, you know, we're going to get, he's going to get everybody's best shot, right, given what he's done up to this point.
Now, Ed, if KBD's production does start to dip, where is that source of production in addition for the Buckeyes?
So I think that it's actually, at the beginning of the season, there's no way I would have given you this answer. But at this point in the year, I actually think that it might be C.J. Jackson. C.J. has been, he started off the year a little bit inconsistent. You know, he would put up some point totals, but he would turn the ball over a lot. He made a lot of passes that were, you could tell he was trying to do something flashy, and it just didn't pan out for him. And he was benched for a couple of games. But since he's come back into the starting lineup, he's been one of their more consistent players. He'll usually go somewhere between, 13 points a game, and sometimes he'll even go as high as 20. You know, when he needs to, he can start making shots from beyond the arc, and he's probably one of their better shooters at this point. You know, I think that you can look at Jayshawn Tate as another guy who would probably need to step up and produce for Ohio State. He's been a little bit more inconsistent. He was their best player last year. He hasn't quite been that guy this year, but I think that part of that's just because they haven't had to rely on him as much. He's been more of someone to facilitate the offense through passing rather than being counted on to be their scorer. And then I think the last guy, if Keita slows down, the last guy who I would expect to see really step up is Caleb Wesson.
Yeah.
He's been making drastic improvements throughout this season. Earlier in the year, it seemed like a guarantee. He was going to get 10 points, he was going to get 10 rebounds, and he was going to foul out. Now, he might not put up the same point totals, but he's not fouling out. He's going to stay in the game. And I think that if Ohio State needs to rely on him, like they sort of did against Rutgers, at the beginning of the game, Keita got off to a slow start. I think he was 0 for his first 5. They started to hand the ball over to Caleb Wesson a little bit more, and Caleb was producing for them. He is a big dude. He's going to pull down a lot of offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. And so even when guys like Keita are missing from beyond the arc or from mid-range, as long as you have that big guy like Keita down in the post to be able to scoop up the rebounds and put it back in, they'll be able to find some production from him.
Yeah, and someone they also have to look forward to off the bench is Joey Lane. I mean, no one brings more energy than him waving that towel. But that's all we got for you for the men's basketball today. Be sure to check back throughout the week for more coverage of the Ohio State men's basketball team. Now let's go back to Alicia for some more information on Ohio State football.
Things are looking good for the Ohio State football team as 6 of their top wide receivers, known as Zone 6, will be returning for another season. This includes junior Paris Campbell, Johnny Dixon, and Terry McLaurin. Other players who have announced their return are sophomore running back Mike Weber and defensive lineman Draymond Jones. Despite losing quarterback JT Barrett, the Buckeyes will have a lot of talent returning for the offense. Now let's turn it over to weather to check the temperatures for the rest of the week and this weekend.
Thank you. Now I'm meteorologist Grace Devine here on Later TV to give you your weather for this weekend. Outside right now we see a temperature of 19 degrees. And despite the fact that the sun is out and shining, it's still quite cold out there since the feel is all the way down at 7 degrees. And you add that with the wind all the way at 13 miles per hour, we have a frigid day for us. And we'll continue seeing some of the weather that we have been seeing for the past week since we're in this area of low pressure system, for us in Ohio. Luckily, though, out west, you can see the clearness that's going to come our way later on through this weekend and into next week. So like I said, Friday we'll start to see it warm up quite a bit and the sun will be out with a temperature of 35 degrees. Saturday, those clouds will start to roll in, but we'll keep warming up all the way up to 40 degrees. And Sunday, there's a slight chance of rain and we'll see a temperature once again keep going on up to 44 degrees. And through next week, we'll start to see the rain continue on in, the clouds to follow along with it, with a temperature of all the way up at 50 degrees. So I think it's a good price to pay to get a break from all that cold. As we continue on through next week, we'll start to see the sun come on in and the temperatures to remain quite warm for us. So go outside and enjoy your weather. Back to you.
That's all we have for you this week on Lantern News Now.
Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Also check out the Lantern on Snapchat.
Thanks for watching.